Agent.
Killionaire.
First, how I capture, the thing I wanted to loop, or essentially I wanted to steal, essentially, so I did get it. You go and capture your thing, the AZ screen recorder, right? And you set it up, be the max resolution it can do, the highest quality, and then 60 FPS, because I think 60 FPS would be completely fine. Now, my phone doesn't support 60 FPS, so the file ended up being 51 FPS. Obviously, portrait orientation, because that's how I wanted it to be. And then have it hide the record window during recording. And then after I capture whatever I wanted to capture, I would essentially edit it in your gallery. So you go into your gallery, and it would show up here under AZ screen recorder. And then you would just choose it, and obviously, like this pencil icon, you choose that to cut it. So you want to cut it down to wherever you wanted to create that GIF of. And if it's a looping one, obviously you cut it down enough so that you maybe at least 5 seconds. Depends on how long the loop. You at least want at least 1 to 2 loops. So you take that, transfer that over to your PC. And once you're on your PC, so then you come over to your PC and you go into your Photoshop. And I guess what you should have done first before doing this is you check for your file, wherever you put it. Take a look at your file, right click on it, check your properties, and you essentially want to mark down your properties. Interesting, it's not even 51 frames, it's 50.62 frames. I did it in 50 frames anyways, or actually I did it in 51 frames. Now that I know it's actually 50 frames, I'm not too happy about that. I think that's why I had a frame doubled normally, so that was annoying. That's why when I was cutting it in Photoshop, it had an extra frame. That could be why it looks a little faster as well. But let's go into, now that you have those numbers, maybe you want to keep it open or write it down. When you go into your Photoshop file, you create a new file, and you do it the same. The width being the number on your left, on the right would be your height. Pixels, you name it. Resolution 72, as 300 doesn't really matter, only if you're going to print it, like in real life. Then you'd want to create that, right? And once you get it in, you go to layer, you go to video layers, new video layer from file. You would choose wherever your file is, and you'd put that in here. Then you'd want to go up to the window here and add in, you'd want to add in timeline, which I'm having a tough time looking for it because I forgot that I already have it there, so there's a check. Then you come over here to this little pancake here, little stack of pancakes, and you want to go to timeline frame rate, and essentially pick that. Let me actually do this. I'm gonna redo this, just because now that I know it's 50 frames, I might want to have it a bit slower, maybe. So we're actually gonna do that. We're gonna make it 50 frames. We're gonna export it at 50 frames right now. So now that's saved. I just hit OK on that normally. All right. This is already perfectly looped for me. But anyways, if you come over here, you go to set timeline frame rate here. You'd want to set it to whatever your file is. I'm going to set it to 50, so it'll go a bit slower than what it's supposed to be, but I would rather have it a little bit slower than a little bit faster, in my opinion, right? So now with that set up, we come into here and we go to, you want to enable timeline shortcut keys. And then you want to find something within your, this is if you're trying to make a loop. Let's say at 50% resolution, just so that it loads faster. But essentially, you want to find something that is pretty much there for the whole loop, which was this foot here. Use Alt and then scroll to zoom in, and then just scroll to go up and down. All right. So you essentially just watch that whole loop, and then you just you cut the frames the right way. The way you edit this stuff down here, I've completely skipped over that process. My bad. Pretty much find your first frame that you want to start your GIF at, and then you just drag it like this to pretty much where you have your marker, and it should snap right on there. That's pretty much what I did. And the same thing with over here, except after you do it over here, you'll realize that obviously there's a space over here. You just simply drag it till it snaps in there pretty much. It snaps in pretty easily. It's pretty automated to a certain degree. So after you've done that, you might want to cut if you want. You could cut. There's a black bar here. There was a black bar here. I mean, I don't know about for you, but you might want to cut it out or crop it. So you'd use the crop function here to essentially crop things out. So you can see here, there is a black bar, right? So I'll get real close by using Alt and zoom. But when I do that, this doesn't connect anymore. Oh, yes, it does apparently. I just had to click on it. Zoom in again, right? Right, so it's gone now. We just hit enter this now. Come back over to our move tool. Use Alt to zoom all the way back out. That's how you do that. And then obviously down here, we go. This is what I learned from someone on YouTube. They might find out who it is if they actually watch the video. We go to sharpen. We go to smart sharpen. This is the numbers pretty much. We got 25 here, 10 here, 0 here, and then change this to Gaussian blur, and then just hit OK there. Then we go up to filter again. We go to noise. We go to reduce noise. And here's 10, 5, 0, 80. Just hit OK on that as well. I believe that should have worked pretty good. Now that that's all over, this is something I tried again and again and again to figure out what to do, and I believe I have a really good solution to, but not 100%. So to export it as a GIF, you could obviously go to File, Export, go to Save for Web Legacy. It used to be Save for Web, but obviously they changed it like 4 years ago apparently, or 3 years ago. So now we're here. Hold on a minute. So here we're gonna go with selective, not diffusion though. We're gonna do pattern. Diffusion, there's a lot of, it's very it obviously it takes up like a lot of your data, or it fills the image a lot with a lot of little pixels to help with the transfer of different colors, I believe. But we choose pattern instead of the other one that was just on. We choose selective over adaptive, because adaptive is even more, it moves even more the pattern. Okay, now that we're here, colors 256. This is, so I'm pretty much, this is exporting for like the best quality I can do it. This is pretty much what I've done. And then having it on diffusion, there's a lot of little assets in the image that is trying to obviously smooth out the image to a certain degree. Pattern I've essentially figured out to be the best, as it kind of looks like a painting to a certain degree, or it just looks like stable images or stable pixels. So if we zoom in here, right, you'll see that this is what pattern looks like, but if we look at diffusion, it's all these little dots, and all these dots move constantly. So if we hit play on this, see, you see all these dots moving, right? See all that? But if we head over to pattern, it looks like this, it looks a bit more better in my opinion, because it's not so sporadic and crazy. So when you hit play on this, you'll see that these dots pretty much stay on the same level. This is as best as I can get it though. Maybe we can try adaptive pattern at the same time. Maybe it will maybe it will be a lot more animated to a certain degree. But either way, that's pretty much what I've decided to be where we should be essentially. Over here in the corner, this tells you how big the file is. Interlaced makes it look a lot better. It didn't change this at all, actually. Not really by much at all. Strange for me, but it is what it is, I guess. But here it is with it interlaced off. The file size is pretty much the same. Keep that checked, I guess, because I've heard it does make it look better, and when I was messing with it, I did realize it did look better with it interlaced. Transparency, yes. And then convert to sRGB, and down here you'd want to change it to bicubic sharper. If you want it to look a little bit smoother, I would say you'd want to go with bicubic smoother. What it'll end up doing is it'll take a lot of the colors and make them blend out. In my opinion, I believe it makes it look the tones end up mashing a bit more better. They start becoming more of the same color. But if I had to pick for the more contrasty decision, it would be sharper for sure. Let's hit save. Choose your location. Let that save. All right, now that's out. We're going to export an adaptive of the same version, just so that we can put it side by side to compare. Also, one thing to note over here for the matte, we have it set at white. Though if you're having an issue, you can just, like with it, you having a white border in your image, you would want to change that to none instead. So we're going to switch this to adaptive this time. I'm going to keep it on pattern. White, matte, transparency, yes, interlaced. Colors, 256. The colors actually, from what I've heard or what I saw, is a big impact on your size here. So if you wanted to shoot for smaller size, you'd want to drop down in color there. For me, I'm going for the maxed look, the max color, the max thing. I'm not worrying about the size at all. Also with WebSnap, apparently you can also change this number by increasing this number will decrease your file size. The reason why I'm making an adaptive version is to compare it, but on the same note, I'm comparing it with pattern because I have not compared it with diffusion. I've only done diffusion, compared them a lot with diffusion. I have not compared adaptive pattern with selective pattern. One thing to note, perceptual could be a good option, but it's not really an option I plan on using. With selective, you can choose your background. If you have a solid color in the background, you can actually use the stropper here to drop the background so it doesn't necessarily pattern up your background as well. We're not going to do that because there's way too much going on, so we're just going to move forward with it. Save. I'm going to go 50. Adaptive. I like to hover my mouse over the save icon while we wait. It's just a little preference of mine. All right. Now with that complete, Just save here one last time before I close it. And we go and find our stuff. I'm gonna open our adaptive, put it on the right. Yeah, there we go. It's weird. We're gonna open up our selective, I believe. Then on the left, we're gonna zoom in to 313. That's where I've been comparing. Here we are. So with looking at this, when you're using pattern, it does appear adaptive is a lot better than selective, considering the pattern isn't 100% seen here, but it is more seen with our selective choice. So it makes me wonder if I should just stick with the adaptive pattern instead of selective. But overall, so here's the background. You can see here with pattern, this isn't moving. With here, oops. Oh, okay, nice. All right, so we're trying to look at the background here. See there? So with pattern, things aren't moving around like crazy. But if I were to, oh, they're both the same image. I see what I did. Yeah, I did do that. With adaptive on non-pattern, things, assets are moving a lot here compared to non-pattern here. So this is, we're gonna do adaptive now because, well, I like adaptive now. You can see here that there's a lot of things moving when you choose non-pattern. If we go to 100 here, you'll see that you can see this stuff moving a bit. I would say I could see it moving. As for here, the stuff doesn't really move much, and it has a different color. So adaptive, you can see it is pulling different colors from here. But overall, my actual image here, subject, is how I would want it to be. You can see the colors look a bit, you know. So zoomed out, non-pattern looks a bit better, non-pattern. But when we get in, we see a lot of assets moving compared to pattern. There are assets moving, but everything, all the assets are moving. So again, this is adaptive passive. This is adaptive pattern. And the other one is selective diffusion. And diffusion will often double the size of pattern, but it'll look like this when you zoom in, right? Anyways, that's it.